Camera is running. I thought the alarm person would show up, but they did not, so I'm shooting the hip here a little bit. So I'll introduce Derek instead. Derek Tano's a returning Inver grad. We'll interview him here in a second, ask him some interesting questions about his path from here to where he's at now. And then he's going to give a presentation. That'll be pretty fun, lots of photos from all over. And yeah, then we'll hang out afterwards for about a half an hour if people have questions. And one thing about that, the Department of Philosophy at the University of Minnesota is holding kind of a gathering for people interested in perhaps pursuing philosophy. And let me say that there's a lot worse things in the world to pursue. So if you're interested, we're going to hang out afterwards, like I said, and ask questions. Chuck and Phil some questions more about it too. So sweet. With that, give me around and get started. So please. All right, let's get started. So Derek, what year did you graduate?
I graduated from Inver in 2013, so it's been a little while.
Okay. Do you have any particular focus? Did you study any, like, did you come here studying something, or was it just straight up transfer?
Well, originally, I mean, I sort of fell into Inver Hills. Because I originally, when I was in high school, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the University of Minnesota. I know that. That's what I'm going to do. And I applied, and I was rejected. I was like, no. I was like, what? And I had a fine ACT. I was good. I had all the stuff. I met all the requirements. I said no. And I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And my dad went to Inver Hills, and he goes, well, you know, go Giants. You should go Inver Hills.
The Giants. I wish we had to
Right?
Giants.
Oh,
yes.
Right? Yeah, if you guys don't know, the Inver Hills mascot.
Yeah.
The Inver Hills mascot used to be the Giants.
Yes, it used to be. Why don't we have the Giants anymore? Wait, I'm going to start on that. All right.
But yeah, so no, I sort of fell into it, and when I got here, I was like, okay, well, I'll just do the transfer thing and then go to the U after 40 credits or whatever. And as I went here and took classes, I was really interested in a bunch of the classes, and next thing I know, I find myself at 60 credits with an AA degree and an emphasis in history.
Nice.
And then, yeah.
So what were your favorite classes?
And this is not, I'm not just saying this, it was your class. I loved, seriously.
We know who to bring in, right?
I loved your intro class, your intro to philosophy class.
And I might debate that with you.
Well, and I get it, because it's, it can be abrasive. I mean, and not the class itself, I mean, it's a shake-up, man. It's a good class, though. I liked philosophy of world religions. That one was good. I liked logic, because I'm not a math guy in any way, and it satisfied my math credit, and it actually made more sense to me. Like, I don't know, it felt more important, like it mattered.
Did you hear that, anti-math people? You can get your math thing done by doing logic, just to remind you.
So,
we're doing some good promoting here. So what did you do after you completed your degree here?
I did transfer to the U of M.
They accepted you this time?
They finally let me in. They finally let me in. So I went there and I did. I finished up the rest of my BA there.
In what?
In history. In history. And graduated on time. Graduated from U of M with the BA in 2015. And then I went on from that, and I did a master's degree in education. And I did that in 1 year. I graduated.
In 1 year?
Yes, did that 1 year.
Rigorous program.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, it was, I think 14 credits over the summer, 21 credits in the fall, and then another 18 in the spring, and you're also student teaching during the whole thing. So that was.
So what's the biggest difference between an undergrad and a grad student?
Well, there's a lot of differences. The biggest difference, I would say, is when you're a grad student, when you're an undergrad, it's kind of more you and the class, whereas when you're a grad student, it's like you and the professor. So like, if you're in an undergrad class and they say, okay, you got to read the first 3 chapters of this book by Wednesday, you either do it or you don't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's just how it is. In grad school, it's more like, hey, you should read these 5 books. Well, by when? Read them. Get them done. You're gonna need that like now. You should have probably already read them. Like that's like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, that's the biggest difference. It's not so much, I don't want to say it's more self-driven or more self-taught, but it's more, dude, it's on you. You know, if that makes sense.
That does. So tell us a little about your background in education. Well, how was your experience in doing educational theory? I'm always interested as a philosopher in what's going on in education.
That was a ride. So, I don't even know where to begin with that one. So I always wanted to be a teacher. I mean, for a long time. I was like, I want to teach high school. That's what I want to do.
Are you teaching high school right now?
No.
Okay.
Well, sort of. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But no, so I'm not an official high school teacher right now, though I have an official Minnesota high school teaching license.
Do you still want to be a high school teacher?
I still want my mental image of what a high school teacher should be. I guess is more what I want to do.
So that's no.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess because I wanted to be a high school teacher forever, and I was like, okay, that's the goal. I'm gonna get a BA in history. I'm gonna go and then do the master's in education, teach history. There we go.
Do you know history doesn't matter anymore?
No, never. It already happened. Who cares?
Yeah.
But same thing with philosophy, though, right?
Hey, now philosophy's not a historical phenomenon.
But isn't it just like arguing?
Yeah, it's just your thing.
Right.
Anyway.
So I went into the master's program, and I was thinking it was going to be something different than it was, I guess, because I don't know. Is anybody here planning on going into education or educational theory stuff? Yeah, a couple. There's usually a couple. The ideas that they're trying to go with are great. Their heart's in the right place, I think. They're trying to get. They're trying to help everybody out, but the problem that I had with it was there was a little bit of everybody kind of drinking out of the same Kool-Aid, and it turned me off because the reason I went in is because I wanted to teach kids. I wanted to teach kids. I wanted to help kids, because that's what teaching is. It's helping them become citizens and be adults, and that's what I wanted to do. The problem was it got really, really, really muddied in a lot of the educational theory, which a lot of the times you'll read the educational theory and you're like, this makes shit. And like, it's like a snake eating its own tail. It doesn't make sense. And you'll have...
See, that's the philosopher in you, though, see.
And you sort of ruined me. Like, I will be honest.
That's a common theme, actually.
Right. Because like, if those of you in Shane's class, Shane sometimes gets a little passionate in his lectures. That doesn't make sense, right? That's what'll happen. And I sat there and saw through a critical lens how to read things philosophically or see things philosophically. At least I think I do. And when it came to the educational theory, a lot of it was, this is the truth. And anybody who's taken any philosophy class here, whenever somebody tells you what the truth is, then you got to go, oh, hang on a second. And that's sort of where education and I parted ways. So I got the master's, I left, and I did all my student teaching, and I still would like to be a teacher, but it's what brought me down the...
Well, so, and part of bringing you here was part of the uniqueness of Derek's position, because that's kind of the point of these interviews, right? This isn't the traditional sense, and up to now it's been pretty traditional. It's about the traditional as it gets in a lot of sense. You go to college, you go to math, blah, blah, blah. But your background influences you a bit, too.
Yeah.
And so before we start your presentation, I want you to talk a bit about that extensive travel experience that's influenced you so much. Like, just kind of how it got started and all that,
Yeah. So, and I'll touch on this again in the presentation, but basically I've been traveling my whole life. And my parents both worked for Delta. And so that's where
I didn't know.
yeah.
That
So,
explains a lot.
Yeah, good. So mom and dad both work for Delta. Dad's a pilot, mom's a flight attendant. And my dad's an old Northwest guy, like he's been there my whole life. And so I've had flight benefits my whole life. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically, if you have parents who work for the airlines, you can fly for free, but that's what it's called. It's not really for free because you only go if there's an open seat, which open seats on airplanes right now are not exactly
Ask United about that.
Yeah, right. So,
They got a great opening,
right? But yeah, so it's you fly standby, and so I've been able to pretty much abuse that system for a while, and go to amazing places. I've been doing that my whole life, but I didn't really go internationally until I was 18. I think 17 actually. It was the first time I left the country that wasn't Canada, or Mexico, but
Same thing.
right, it might as well be, right? They're both American Junior. But so I started going international, like Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, all that stuff, while I was at Edinburgh, and that was one of the things that really influenced my life and my different path, I guess you could say, is that travel stuff. So, yeah.
Well, what's your, so on that, what was your worst travel experience? Let's start there. What was your absolutely worst travel experience? Like, I'm never going there again, I'm never doing that again, that was...
Well, there's two that come to mind. One that I said I'll never do again is when I was in Thailand. I was going...
You're never off from Thailand.
Yep. Yep. I was riding... Thailand's beautiful. Thailand's beautiful. It's awesome. I would definitely go back to Thailand again. But one thing I will never do in Thailand again is use a roadside public restroom. Because it's not even kind of what you're thinking. And now it's even the horrible image you're picturing right now, still not even what you're picturing. So yeah, I was on a bus and we were going to the coast, and it was like, okay, this is the bathroom stop. And we got out, and it was... That's something I will never do again. That was horrific. It's still here to this day, right here.
That's your tattoo.
Yeah. The other one, in a different way, was because I fly for free, a standby. If there is no seat, you don't get on, and that can be problematic if there's no seats for several days. And there was one time where it was over spring break. I went to Paris and Amsterdam, and there's direct flights from Minneapolis to Paris and then Minneapolis to Amsterdam, so it's just there's no connections. And I was like, okay, that'll be fine. So I go and I'm in Amsterdam, and there was some storm or something that messed with all the flights to the point where I was stuck in the Amsterdam airport for 4 days. And it's not like you're stuck in there because of the storm. Like everybody else, it was a normal day. But all the flights were oversold by several, just like the United Kingdom. And if they're oversold, I'm not getting on. That's not happening. And
Just work for United. Sorry. Again, that was just...
but no, so I would bounce to every flight. I'm just trying to get out of Amsterdam. I'm going to Boston. I'm trying to get to New York. I'm trying to get to anywhere that's not here. Anywhere that's not Amsterdam. And every single flight was full. And I ended up living in the Amsterdam airport for 4 days. And that was not fun. It was not fun.
So those experiences aside,
Yes.
What do you enjoy most about traveling in general?
I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy to say the adventure of it, but kind of the adventure. And I guess what makes it an adventure is like going out and stepping out of the comfort zone a bit. And you can sort of baby step out of your comfort zone and go to London, which is different. I mean, there's different stuff that happens there, but everybody speaks English and things like that. And I'm not knocking going to London. It's still a different thing, which, I mean, I've been to London. But if you get a little more adventurous, then you can say, okay, maybe I'll go to a different country in Italy that doesn't speak English as well. Like, go to France, and then they're a touch rude. You gotta try. You gotta try to speak French. If you try to speak French, then they're okay. Or you can go way off the deep end and go to Colombo, Sri Lanka, like I did, and ride in a tuk-tuk and have the guy have a basket with a cobra in it, because he's a part-time snake charmer, be in the seat next to you. Yeah. So I mean, you can go as wild as you want, and I think that's why I like the adventure of it, because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, and I think it's healthy for you to not just stare at the same four walls every day.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I have a question to ask you. Well, of all the places you've been, say that kind of different. What places haunt your memories all the time? Because those places you've been to, that just continually.
I mean, there's a lot of the stuff, a lot of the pictures I put up here are like some of my favorite spots. So I'll show you the pictures of them. But I'm particularly, my heart's in Italy, I'm Italian, but I wasn't born in Italy. My grandparents were, but I'm Italian, and my interest in history, my focus would be Roman history. So, I mean, I just eat that stuff up. So, Rome was awesome, all over Italy is awesome. I'm also part Finnish, and by religion I'm Lutheran. And there's the only Lutheran cathedral is in Helsinki, Finland. And I went to a communion mass in that cathedral. And I'll show you a picture of the cathedral up there too, but it's literally exactly, if anybody in here is Lutheran, versus, if you've been to a Catholic cathedral, it's all ornate and huge and echoey and pipe organy and everything. A Lutheran cathedral is just kind of like, yeah, whatever, man. White walls, it's cool. Like, it's a very Lutheran cathedral. Yeah. So I'll show that to you. But so there, and then the other place would be, there was a Buddhist cave temple I went to in Thailand, where there's, I think it's a statue of the world's largest golden reclining Buddha in this temple, and there's monkeys everywhere. Like, it's in the jungle. Like, it's an Indiana Jones kind of thing. And you just go in there, and then out of nowhere, there's this cave entrance with a big carved archway and monkeys everywhere, and oddly a souvenir stand. And then you walk in, and it's this huge Buddhist temple in a cave with a huge golden Buddha, candles everywhere, and monks just walking around in a cave. And it was just, that was surreal. So,
Nice.
yeah.
All right, well, so before we get started with your presentation, you have an AA, a BA, an MA, and or a CFP besides. What are you doing with all that education?
Well, I'm speaking at Denver Hills right now. No, like I said, I originally was like, okay, I'm gonna be a high school teacher. That's my life. I'm good. I'm just totally cool with that. But then, throughout the process of getting the master's, I realized that's not quite. I mean, I'd still be happy with it, but I wouldn't be satisfied with it. And so I started my own company, and it's a study abroad company, but it works. It's a high school study abroad company. And this is, I mean, has anybody here studied abroad ever? Yeah.
Oh, Dean has.
There we go. Yeah, and not many people do, and yeah, and I never did either. I never studied abroad, like, officially. I went abroad, but I never studied abroad. And I saw that there was this niche for it, so I was like, okay. And I chose high school study abroad because I was involved during my master's program. I was approached by this one high school study abroad company called Abbey Road Programs, and I worked with them for a summer, and I lived in Italy for a summer, and I ran their entire Italy program, and it was an amazing experience for me, an amazing experience for the kids, but the company itself was the most slimy, bad experience ever, and I'll get into that again. I'll throw some shade on them later, but the idea itself was amazing, and it was to the point. I thought it was so good, and it's exactly what I wanted when I was 10 and was like, I'm going to teach history. It's exactly what I wanted, was that concept and what it could be. And then I saw this company just take a big hot dump on it, and I was like, no, I can do better. I can do better than this. So I came home, and as of, I think it's January 28th is the official filing date of this year. World Class Programs, LLC, which is my company, this is our logo, is official, and it's a high school study abroad company. So, that's
Sweet.
what we're doing.
Well, thank you for answering our questions. So he's going to give a presentation, then afterwards you can field some questions if you want.
Yeah.
Let's do that after. Can we do that after? Oh, so the alum is here. Stop. Change everything. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks for accommodating.
This is Gail Morrison, our alumni director.
Yeah,
step
so
out.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're so proud to call you one of our alumni. So I have a pin for you, an alumni pin from Denver Hills. Can I put it on for you? All right. And so there you go. Wear it proudly,
Oh yeah.
and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Woo!
I would like to start this with a little bit of a disclaimer. A joke from my cohort in the master's program is that we were all getting master's degrees in PowerPoint presentation. Because that's part of education. And every teacher now uses PowerPoint. So I apologize in advance if this PowerPoint has corny moments or like annoying bad puns and things like that. So they're gonna come. So yeah, this is my Rethinking Pathways to Success presentation. My name's Derek. There it is. That's today's date. Those of you who don't know, that's really important stuff. The presentation is going to go sort of like this. It's going to be a two-parter. The part one is just kind of my life, my time at Inver Hills and U of M, and then my travel history. And I'll sort of skim through that since we talked about most of it already. And then the second part is my time in Italy, the decision to start world-class programs, and then kind of what I'm planning for the future. And the reason I broke it up that way is, like Shane had mentioned, I was on pretty much the standard path for all the way up until I graduated in 2016 with the master's. And then, which is the end of part one. And then my whole life went, okay, you know what, this is not quite where I need to be right now. And then this whole tornado of awesome and bad happened, and now world-class programs exist, and here I am. So that's kind of how it's going to go. So to begin, it's me. Steve Corn, I told you. So my family, like I had said, my dad is a pilot for Delta. My mom's a flight attendant for Delta. My sister's also been able to travel with us. That's my family right there. In that picture, we're in the south of France there. We just flew to Monaco. And it was awesome. So it's that is what has been really a blessing to me, is to be able to just kind of pick up and go. I mean, granted, when we go, you still have to, it's not free because you have to pay for the hotel and everything you do when you're there, but it's nice to be able to just kind of hop on a plane and go. So that's something that's really fortunate. My parents are big travel advocates, obviously, and it's because of them that my travel passion exists. So I've been really fortunate with that. That's been amazing. And now Inver Hills and me. These are some pictures of my time in Inver Hills. Prove I did in fact go here. I mean, the green room, lots of good memories in the green room. The quesadillas are also really good. The French fries, I suggest you try if you have not. They're quite good. They're fresh. Unless they change the recipe, which one don't hold that against me. Those were really good. And so while I was at Inver was the first time in my life that I was healthily challenged in a healthy way, academically. High school was pretty easy for me. I mean, I was a B student. I could have been an A student, that's what I tell myself, but I just didn't care enough. That's just kind of what it was. It was these classes are easy, why do I care? The only classes I ever was passionate about was science and history, because I felt those were more substantial. And I'm not trying to knock any other subjects, those were my thing. And I'm sure you all know that, like those of you who like math, I'm not a big math guy, but you know what I mean when I say this class hits you somewhere, you know? And that was history and science for me. But when I got to Inver, the first semester I was here, I remember and I'm the oldest kid, so I'm the first one since my parents to go to college. I remember sitting up kind of by the top floor of College Center, registering for classes at orientation. I'm like, I don't even know what's a full-time amount. And I asked somebody, and they go, oh, that's 12 credits. You should take 12 credits is what you should be taking, 12 to 15. I go, okay. And I go, do you know any good teachers here? And they're like, oh yeah, a couple of them, whatever. Okay. So I started picking these classes, and I always heard that philosophy was cool, but I never had any real experience in philosophy. I'd read some philosophy books. Like before I had come to Inver Hills, I'd read like some Machiavelli, I'd read some Hobbes and things like that. But I read it as a high school kid, not as a philosopher with any critical lens. But I signed up for Shane's class inadvertently. I didn't really know what I was quite getting into. But it was philosophy of world religions. and that was my first semester, and that class, it kicked my ass. It really did. Like, it was, but in the best way, because for the first time, I was forced to think, and not just kind of like eat the info and then puke it back out and take a test and whatever. And it was horribly refreshing and a touch frightening because I didn't realize that a class could do that because my whole life it was just simple. The same thing happened with basically all of my Inver Hills classes. They were all awesome. I had no, that I can think of, I had no bad experiences with any of my Inver Hills classes. But philosophy really did stand out. So that was, and that's kind of where I got off and running with the philosophy thing here at Inver. So then once I got through Inver Hills with my AA, and I had an emphasis in history, which, funny thing, I didn't take a single history class while I was here, by the way. I got that all from my AP history classes. So I can't actually speak to how the history classes here are, but I'm sure they're awesome because every other class was. So I graduated with AA and emphasis in history, and then I went to the University of Minnesota, and I got a bachelor's degree in history, focused on Roman history or classical history. And then I continued on right from there, like I said, into the master's program, and did that in 1 year. And while I did the
Was that standard 1 year for that program, or did you just do a condensed version?
Technically, it's recommended at the U to do it in 1 year. Standard master's programs for education are 2 years, 2 to 3, depending on what they make you do. But for the U of M is designed so you can do it in either 1 year or 2 years. They recommend 1 year. I don't really know why. The cynic in me says so they can cycle kids through more. But
faster is better, don't you know that?
Right. But I mean, it was actually great. It was horrible because it was insanely difficult and taxing. But it was great for me because it was 1 year off, 1 year to college life instead of 2 years, and just focus on it. So that was good. But yeah, so the one thing I was going to say is I also have with my bachelor's degree in history, I also have a degree in archaeology. So it was a double major. So yeah, so that was my time at the U, and like I said, the education master's was not a bad thing. It wasn't a bad experience. It just, the theory behind it and the like I said, everybody kind of trying to drink out of the same Kool-Aid turned me off to education. Not teaching, but education, if that makes sense. And that's the only thing, that's the only gripe I have with the master's in education is that it left a bit of a harsh taste because it wasn't what I thought education should be or was going into it. So then in addition to my, I told you, Corny, in addition to my degrees, I have a very particular set of skills beyond that, which so I can fly a plane.
You can fly a plane?
Yep, I have a private pilot's license. I'm a certified scuba diver with Patty Scuba Diver. What?
Patty drives me insane, but go ahead.
But yeah, so Patty Scuba Diver. And I'm not good at it, but I have done stand-up comedy. I can juggle, I can play the piano, I can speak a couple different languages, none of them good, besides English, I think. And like I have a bunch of odd skills that really have no way, unless I join the circus, to interact with each other. So,
how long have you had your pilot license?
The pilot's license has been coming up on 3 years, I think. Yeah. So just a little private planes, little puddle jumpers, but yeah. So I got it out of Thunderbird, if anybody knows where that is. It's out at Flying Cloud Airport. Yeah. They're good school. So anyways, yeah, my travel history, I've been to over 100 countries. The way I count a country is if they're a sovereign nation. So I've been to over 100 of them. I've literally traveled around the world. There was one trip I took, the one in which I went to Thailand. I when I left Minneapolis, I went west until I got home. There's even a picture, I don't have it in here, but there's a picture of me sitting in one of the chairs at the airport, and then a picture of me going like this, aiming west, and then I took a picture when I got back of me sitting back in that same chair. So we flew from Minneapolis to Tokyo to Singapore, then we got on a boat, Singapore, and went to Malaysia. From Malaysia, then we went to Thailand, and then after Thailand is when I bumped around Sri Lanka for a bit, then spent some time in India. Then from India, we flew from Bombay to Amsterdam, and we flew right over Tehran, Iran, and I got to look out the window at Tehran, Iran. I've never been there, but that was actually cooler than you'd think. And then from Amsterdam, we went to Paris, and then Paris to New York, Minneapolis. So, all the way around the world. I visited every continent except Antarctica so far, so Paige has me on that one. She got me there.
They're opening it up to public flights like
Yeah.
next year or the year after, something like that.
Right,
so.
I know, I would like to go.
And Paige told us that here, by the way.
So, my first flight that I ever took was when I was just a couple weeks old. I mean, with my dad being a pilot, that was something he wanted to do. After he had his firstborn son, he's like, okay, we're gonna go, we're taking him. And I flew to Duluth, like it wasn't like a big deal. But it was like, just go. And my most recent flight I flew last weekend, which again also wasn't a big deal. I flew to Rochester, Minnesota, because we have a service dog that we're training, and we had to get him on the plane. And he did awesome. But yeah, but I'm going again this weekend. A buddy of mine, we're going to fly to New York for the day. You take the first flight out, you go and spend some time in New York, and you take the 6 o'clock flight back. So yeah, that's what I'm doing this weekend, for next weekend. So, some of the cool places I've been. Europe, where I've been in Europe, these are the countries I've been in Europe. I think I got them all. Been to Italy, France, Germany, United Kingdom, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, Estonia, Spain, Greece, and the Netherlands. Of them, I've been to Italy the most, and I've been to the most cities in Italy, mostly because I lived there. But I've been to all of those. That picture up there with the white cathedral, that's that Lutheran cathedral. So, you see what I mean when I know that? They're just like, yeah, whatever. The inside of it's the exact same. It's white. There's no, like, murals of Jesus or anything. Like, it's just straight up, it's just kind of whatever. Compare that to the Florence one, basically, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, or Notre Dame. I was in St. Petersburg, which is where that one is. That's the Church of Spilled Blood, it was built on the place where the Tsar Alexander was killed. That's why it's called Church of Spilled Blood. France, Notre Dame, Florence, Rome, and then London. So that was all the Europe places. They were all cool. I mean, every one of them. Estonia was the only one that was different. Estonia is very much caught in like a time warp. It's medieval a bit. Yeah, it was like the Renaissance Festival kind of. Then Asia and Oceania, I've been there. This is in Sri Lanka, that one up there with that big Hindu temple. The guy in the red polo there was my tuk-tuk driver. And a tuk-tuk is those things, it's the same thing, it's called a rickshaw in India. It's a 3-wheeled trike where the cab driver drives it, and there's 2 seats in the back, and it's covered. And it's basically a go-kart. It's a go-kart tricycle. And you go all the way through the city streets. And it's tremendously frightening if you're an American driver to do that, because it's literally, and you just, and it's crazy. But anyways, he's the tuk-tuk driver who is a snake charmer part-time, and who had the cobra next to me in the seat. Picture next to that's that Buddhist temple with the reclining Buddha. In there, you're not allowed to take pictures of anything but that Buddha. So I don't have any other pictures of that.
What else is in there besides the Buddha?
Pretty much nothing, but like you can see behind him, there's a shrine up there. Like up there, there's a monk just sitting on a purple pillow, just monking out. I guess. He's just hanging out, and there's probably 20 or 30 different monks in orange robes walking around, and there's just outside it. There's monkeys everywhere. It's in the jungle, It really looks like something out of Indiana Jones. Yeah. So then the bottom right one, anybody here a Lord of the Rings fan? Hobbit, Tolkien? Yeah, that was the Shire. That is the Shire. That's Samwise Gamgee's house from the movies in Matamata, New Zealand, which is where they filmed it. And the set's still there. It's on some guy's sheep farm. And now MGM and Peter Jackson, the guy who directed it, Peter Jackson, gave this guy the rights to the Shire's set, since it's on his land. So now it's a tourist attraction. You can go there, and that was crazy because I'm a huge Tolkien guy.
Do they charge you to go on?
No, it was you're charged to get in, but then once you're in, you can spend the whole day there. So I think it was like, I don't know, $8. But I mean, it was fine. It was good, and it's the whole set, and it's crazy. And all the houses are up to code, so you could live in one of the Hobbit houses. There's nothing in them; they're just concrete, but they're up to code. They made a point of saying that. Then there's Japan. Been in Japan, and then this is in Malaysia. It's a street market in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, and that's my Asian place I've ever been, Asian Oceania. And then just others of note. I've been to basically every major Caribbean island. Like, I didn't go to any of the random Bahamas islands that have 4 people on them. They're all park rangers. But like, I've been to St. Martin, St. Thomas, St. John, Barbados, Antigua, Bonaire, Curacao, Roatan, Cozumel, Jamaica, all the major ones you can think of I've been to. Mexico, Belize, Honduras. I've been to Tunisia, which is where they filmed Star Wars, by the way, Tatooine, Tunisia, which is in Africa. I've been to the North Pole. I put that in quotes because it's North Pole, Alaska, which is this. It's just north of Fairbanks, and I've been to every state in the USA. So that's my travel history, and that's everything up until the end of the master's program. So this is where things get. This is why I'm here now. Because right here, up until here, I think I was special, but I wasn't worthy of being of rethinking the pathways to success. So, like I said, after I completed my master's in education from the U of M, I was lacking conviction, like I say up there. I wasn't sure anymore that I wanted to be a high school teacher. And I was like, I just spent freaking tens of thousands of dollars, and now I don't know. And it made me less sure. And now I don't know what I'm gonna do. And that was like a little jarring because, I mean, I don't know. This is not. Don't raise your hand for this one. You don't have to. But I'm sure some people in here are like, "What the hell am I gonna do with my life?" Because I've been there, and it was strange for me because when I was at Denver, I was like, "I know I'm gonna be a teacher. It's fine." And then finally, something hit me here, and I was like, "Wow! Now I have no idea. I don't want to do that anymore. That's not what I signed up for." So I needed to find something that I was like that I could cling to, because obviously, as everybody knows, if you have a history degree, you can't do anything but teach. And so I was like, I'm effed. So I needed to find something I was passionate about again. And I knew that I always liked travel, and I sort of used that to reconnect with what I valued and what I enjoyed about not only myself, but about education. And the reason why I was so turned off to education in its sense, and I want to be clear, I still love to teach, and I do teach. My company, through world-class programs, we offer classes. It's a study abroad, so I do still teach. But what I was turned off about was the education system of teaching teachers, how you teach a teacher to teach. That I was not a fan of. I was not a fan of the bureaucracy and string pulling that goes on throughout education. And it was not something that I wanted to subscribe myself or any of the kids that I would eventually have custody over to. And that's what I want to be clear about. And I do still think the education, how you teach teachers to teach, their heart's in the right place. I just don't think they're doing it right. So, anyways, yeah, like I said, I use travel to kind of recenter me. And this is that Abbey Road programs. So, now, the other staff on this trip, this is the study abroad company that I worked with. last summer, and that changed my life as it is now, to the way it is now. They sent me an email out of the blue while I was in the master's program, just finishing up. It was back in about a year ago, and so I graduated last May, and I got this email late April, so it'll be a 1-year anniversary of the email in like a week or two. And the email said, "Hi Derek, we're with Abbey Road Programs. My name is Sean, and we'd like to offer you a job as the program director of our Florence Cultural Study Abroad trip. Please let me know if you're interested." And I was like, this is spam. This is not a thing. Because everybody in my cohort was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do about getting a job. It's gonna be so tough. Getting a teaching job is gonna be crazy. And I just had one literally just slapped down. I'd never heard of this company, by the way. I had no contact with them. They just said, here you go. And I asked my professor and my advisor, who I was like, have you ever heard of them? She goes, yeah, they send me emails every once in a while asking if I have any prospective teachers who would want to do this. And she goes, I sent your name in because I know that you're a big history guy and you're good with Italy. I go, okay. So I contacted them, and they're like, yeah, this is it. I go, well, what would I do? Am I just like a chaperone? They go, no, we want you to run the Florence program. I was like, okay, but like, what do you want me to do? They're like, we want you to run the Florence program. I go, I'm 23. Like, you want me to take 43 kids who are like, some of them are 18. You want me to take kids that are like 5 years younger than me to Italy and just kind of wing it? They're like, I mean, whatever. And I'm not joking you. Like, this is what I was like, okay. And so I was like, okay, I wanna, but I feel like this is really sketchy. But I wanna, so I'm gonna do it. So I took the job. And through a bunch of random events, I ended up in Italy. And I was, in fact, 100% in charge of that program. And I'd never studied abroad before. I'd been there, I'd been to Florence, I knew around the city, but like I'd never had high schoolers there. I'd never, any of that stuff. But it was, so I arrived at JFK Airport to pick up the kids because I had to chaperone them over. And I meet the staff, there are other staff and teachers for classes, my staff, over in Italy, because they're all Italian teachers. And so it's just me, and I have to pick up 43 kids at JFK Airport, and then get them on a flight to Milan, Italy. And I was like, okay, cool, I guess. So I met them all, they were all awesome kids. They reawoken my passion for teaching, because I was jaded with the whole system. And they reminded, those 43 kids, some of which are here in this picture, reminded me of why I wanted to do it in the first place, why I wanted to teach. And anyways, so I ended up going, and it was great. And there was many a time where the staff and I would be out. The youngest staff member besides myself was 30. So all the staff, like the art teacher, the history teacher, the photography teacher, and I would all go out like this. He was the history teacher, she was the art teacher, the photography teacher taking the photo. When we'd all go out for like our staff dinners and whatever, I was also in charge of the budget. When the waiter would ask, who's going to pay. I don't speak Italian that well, so they'd all say, oh, he's going to pay. They're like, what? Like, yeah, he's our boss. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, no, he's our boss. So like, oh, okay. So that was weird. But yeah, and it was a great experience for the kids, and a great experience for me. But my problem with them came in that with Abbey Road, when we got to Italy, first of all, I was never background checked. None of the staff in Abbey Road were ever background checked. And I was like, that's weird. Every night we do a visual check-in. I have to do a visual check-in as the director with all the kids. There were, of the 43 students, we had 8 boys, and the rest were all high school age girls. And if they're in the shower, they have to come out, and I have to see them. They put a towel on, a robe, or whatever, and I have to do a visual check-in. And I was never background checked. None of the staff were. And that, I was like, that's not okay with me. That's not okay, because I could have been some creep. And that's not That's not okay. Also, when we got to Italy, we had all the students' passports, but Abbey Road never registered our group with the Italian government. They never knew we were there. So, if anything were to happen, and something did happen, the Italian government could have at any point either deported us or jailed us as illegal immigrants, and if something happened, they could try us as basically illegal immigrant. Basically, we're not protected under Italian law. So that was crazy. And we also ran out of money. And basically, I was in charge of the budget, and to run this thing, we spent 28,000 euro for the whole month we were there for everything. So like the tickets, the train travel, everything for the kids. In the bank account, we were supposed to have 35,000 euro that I had access to. Well, it turns out we only had 15,000 euro split up over 3 debit cards with a $5,000 limit on them. So midway through, we're in the Italian Riviera on a Saturday, not even in Florence where we're living, and my card's declined. I go, okay, well, no, try the other one. Nope, okay, try the third one. Nope, declined, you have no funds. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm here with 40 kids, and I have no access to any money. So I had to, all the staff, we all pulled together whatever money we had, and we came up with the 800 euro we needed to buy the train tickets home out of our own pocket to get all the kids back to Florence. Because you don't go up to the kids and go, yeah, sorry, we ran out of money. Like, right, sorry, guys. No, we made it work. So we figured out, we got back to Florence, and I called up my boss, the owner of the company, and I was like, hey, what's the deal? Why do I not have any money? He's like, oh, you don't have any money? I'm like, no, the bank says we don't have money, we should have 30,000, right? He goes, yeah, you should have 30,000. Yeah, we don't. So what now? He goes, oh, I'll be there tomorrow. And I go, well, what do I do now? He goes, oh, it's fine, I'll just see you tomorrow. I'm sure it's a problem with the bank. I go, okay. He texts me in the morning. Yeah, I'm not going to be there. Basically, I called the bank and they said it should be fine. I go, okay. So at 7 in the morning the next day, I go to the ATM. So I'm like, there's no way it's fine. There's no way. I go and I check the ATM. Nothing. And I go, you're kidding me. So I call him again, like, you need to solve this. You're the only person whose name's on the account. You need to solve this. We have kids here, they need to eat now. Like, I don't have money. I paid for the train tickets out of my pocket, so did all the other staff can reimburse us. He's like, well, we'll talk about that later. I'm like, no, this needs to happen. So anyways, it was the whole thing was run really poorly. The kids never knew any of the bad stuff was going on, any of that stuff. They didn't know we weren't registered with the government. They didn't know we weren't background checked. So that's why I was like, I laid in bed in Italy going, I can do this better. And it's them being so scummy at it and the kids loving it, juxtaposed against itself, is what reawoken that passion for me. Because I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going to be now. Because I have the tools. I have the travel knowledge. I have the degree. I have the passion. And I've seen all the ways to do it wrong. So I figure I might as well do it myself. So I did. When I got back, officially, I formed World Class Programs LLC. This is our logo, and it's on our business cards. It's on our pens. It's on my jacket.
What's the Italian on the bottom mean?
It's Latin, actually.
Or Latin, sorry.
Yeah, and it's memories, knowledge, and character. So, yeah, memore cognitio morbus. And that's our logo. It's on everything. You can see here, here's our website. I think I had it. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. So, like, here's us. This is the thing now. So, originally, this summer we were planning on trying to start this summer, but we got off really late because we couldn't legally market any of our programs until we were officially filed with the Secretary of State, which didn't happen until the 28th of January. So it's tough to say, okay, now you got to find kids for your program in really 3 or 4 months, because if you don't have the kids by April, you can't get the apartments, you can't rent anything. So, so it was tricky. We figured, okay, we'll give it a shot. So we were gonna set up a London and a Florence program, because I knew the Florence one and I knew London. London's pretty all right. And then we have plans for Osaka and Sydney coming in 2018 and 2019 respectively. So that's basically what world-class programs is. Here's our Florence page. It's so magnified, but basically we, this is what they can all see here. This is how it all runs out. These are when we go to Rome, we go to Venice, we do all these other things. Right?
Now the students get tuition for this, yes?
What?
I mean, not tuition, credit?
So they can.
They can.
It depends on, like, if, for example, the high school right over there, what's it called? Simley High School. They give, I met with them, and I met with Megan Kimball. Did anybody go to Simley? Do you know Megan Kimball?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I met with her, and her and I talked with their admin and everything, and they're going to go one-to-one for credit with all of our stuff. Same with Minnetonka High School, and I believe Chaska, or Chanhassen that's also doing that. Some other high schools, they say, okay, well afterwards we'll see what grade they get in your classes, and we need a syllabus and whatever. So it's up to the high school whether or not they want to give credit for it. And then as for college credit, it's the same thing. Like, if they came to Amber Hills or whatever, and they took our, art history class or our fine art drawing class, if they wanted to try to apply that towards college credit, it's up to Amber Hills. But they get credit with us, but our credit doesn't really mean anything by itself. So, but yeah, and then with the prices they can get, we have forms of financial aid available. So we can't advertise any scholarships legally, but we can say there are scholarships, Google them. If you were to Google high school study abroad scholarships, like 30 come up, all of which will apply. Plus we do fundraisers.
But
So
what can't you do legally?
What?
What can't you do legally?
We can't legally say that, we can't legally advertise for scholarships. So we can't legally go out and say, hey, do this particular scholarship to get money for this. Because then we're advertising for another company or another organization or whatever, which we don't have the permission to do. But we can totally go, hey, go Google high school study abroad scholarships, and there you go.
So, real quick, I know some people might be someplace at noon, so if you had to be someplace at noon, fine. Otherwise, you got a few more minutes, I take it, right? And
I
then-
got like one more slide.
Okay, and then we'll take some questions. But you need to be someplace, yeah, feel free to. But go ahead.
Yeah. So that's basically how it all shakes out there. And then the next slide is this YouTube video, which I already had up, I believe, in here. And this is a student-made YouTube video from our trip. This was the Abbey Road trip. And you'll see me kind of poking around. if I'm being perfectly honest, I mean, I don't know. I really don't, and I'm okay with that. I have a plan. I know what the goal is. The goal is to kind of keep on track with the company and sort of do education my own way, or the way I feel it ought to be done, and try to add some different Kool-Aid for them to drink for my education. But what I do know are these things that I kind of put up to kind of wrap up the whole thing. And I'll read the little asterisk, by the way, if you can't. And that one's for Shane. And the asterisk says, what exactly does it mean to know something? Can we ever know something? What is knowledge then exactly? Sorry, philosophy coming out again. Thanks, Shane. What I do know is that my motto throughout this whole thing has been that money grows back, but time doesn't. If you spend, money, if you're worried about going in debt because you want to do a master's program in education or anything or whatever, if you can feasibly do it, I would say go for it if you want it, because you could be in debt, but you'll get out of debt. You'll figure it out. You will, but you'll never be able to go back. That's just how it is. Money grows back, but time doesn't. So if it's worth it, it's worth it. You will figure it out if you keep trying. Either you'll figure it out or something will hit you in the face and you'll get an email randomly in April that'll say that you're hired for a job that you never applied for. So it's just the weirdest ride, life, and it's gonna happen. It might not be what you planned, but it's gonna happen. I'm sure many of you are currently in one of Shane's classes, or any philosophy class. I would strongly recommend that you pay attention, because that shit could really change your life and the way you look at life. There is no one path to success, which I think it's insane that people think that, and I thought it, so I'm insane too, but I think it makes no sense. So, there is no one path. You gotta just kind of go and feel your way through life and go explore as many ways as you can. And it's not just travel. I mean, explore new things, do new things. If somebody's like, hey, let's go to this new place, do it. And then, like me, with my random hodgepodge of unique set of skills, everybody has those. I mean, if you have something that's unique to you, you can probably figure it out. Is that a good question?
I did have a question.
Yeah.
So you're over in Italy with the kids, and how did you get the money? Because I didn't really.
Oh,
How'd you get out
well,
of it?
basically, I ended up dragging his ass down to Florence, and I was like, "You need to give me the money." So he and I went and we looked at the bank account, and yeah, it was dead dry. He's like, "Oh, I guess nobody put the money in. Here you go." And it turns out, it turns out the person who was on the French program was actually embezzling money.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, and he still works there. Still works there because he is the boyfriend of the owner of the company.
Oh.
So, and that's it was proven there. It was proven somebody on the French trip that they did sued him for embezzling money, and who also worked for the company, and the owner dropped charges.
So the kids at home safe, and you got reimbursed for your time period? Oh.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry.
It all ended great, but he didn't want to pay me back. He didn't want to pay us back because it was company funds. I was like, no, it wasn't. Because you ran dry after you bought the ticket. Like, no, not how that happened. So that was, it was a crazy story. I mean, does anybody else have any questions? I'm
Yeah,
totally down for
let's
that.
kind of open for questions
Yeah,
or anything.
down for whatever. Yeah.
So can you expand a little bit on what your beef is with the traditional education system?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if beef's the right word. I guess maybe. Maybe. It's more of for those of you who have not been in education, by the way, thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
For those of you who are not in education or haven't taken any education classes or whatever, your image of what a teacher does is they teach, and they do a good service for the community, whatever they do. They work hard, they're salaried, so they're not there 9 to 5, they're there from 7 to 7 kind of thing. And I'm sure many of you can think back to when you were in high school or whenever that you had that one teacher that was really awesome that you liked, and you're like, oh, they have their shit together, they knew what was up. And that's what I envisioned, that's what I pictured. And I always thought that teaching should be about the relationship between the teacher and the student and the teacher together with the content, and then have that kind of blend together to get some sort of understanding or comprehension of the knowledge, right? And when I went into the program, that's what I was picturing and ready for. And there was never anything even kind of about that. Everything that was taught was about like how to teach is what they called it. But that in and of itself is an insane statement because how you teach is different to every student. Like if you have a student who has, for example, some special need, you have to accommodate that, obviously. But you have to go beyond that, you have to understand that student's need, that student's specific needs. And I felt like that was just simply given lip service throughout the whole thing, whereas then they try to tackle like, well, this is this new education theory that says that we don't need desks. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Cool. But why? Well, because they don't need desks. Okay, hang on, back up. Like, or then they put something up that's like, they'd start throwing around the word everything and always, which is where Shane and Chuck got me, just ruined that whole program for you guys, thanks, appreciate it. Is I'm like, well, okay, when you say you should always do blank as a teacher, I'm like, okay, well that doesn't make sense. And then whenever I say that, whenever I try to actually analyze it and try to grow as an educator, and say like, hey, okay, so I'm curious, when Piaget says that a child's developmental level at kindergarten is that they can, I don't know, just whatever. Why does that follow along with the educational theory that was proposed by Vygotsky that says this? And they'll be like, oh, they weren't even contemporaries. They don't. I'm like, what? What are you talking about then? Why am I reading this? And when I say they, it's the royal they of education. There's no one particular person. Education theory, or as some like to throw the word around, educational philosophy.
And every time they say that, kick them right in the shin, because they're using the term so wrong.
Yeah. So every time they'll put that out, and then they'll everybody in that, instead of anybody read Sherlock Holmes? No, Sherlock Holmes. They like to use in education. They like to use their opinion to suit. They like to have their facts suit their opinion, not their opinion suit the facts. So that's what got me, is that the whole thing got a little muddy and got a little like, I actually felt less confident and less prepared to teach by going through the master's program than I did when I just entered it. I was like, when I entered, I felt like I didn't need it. I felt like I was jumping through hoops just so I get the teaching license and be allowed to teach kids. Because I was like, I know the stuff, I know the content, I know how to teach kids. I've been working, so I still do work for Farmington School District as a before and after school educator, but I'm not a teacher. It's elementary, and I've been doing that for 6 years. So I've been with kids. I know how that works, as much as one can. But right, so I felt like it was just it wasn't in any way useful and almost counterproductive. If that explains my view.
Yeah, no, it does completely, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question? Yeah.
It is stressful running your own company, what's that like?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You gotta go, because I still don't know what I'm doing. I learned more in my 1 hour meeting with my lawyer about how to form an LLC than I did in probably a year of college. In that 1 hour. Because I was so focused and so paying attention, and there was so much information being thrown in my face. And I was like, I gotta figure this out, that I just kind of went and there it was. And like I said, I'm still feeling it out. Like, I don't know what is gonna happen next. I don't know if world-class programs will succeed. And that's the scariest thing, is that I'm diving headfirst off the diving board, and I don't know what's below me. And I'm just praying it's water. I'm praying I land and it's all right. So, and I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure it works. So, but you never know. And that's the biggest stress, is that I'm going, okay, I'm going to put my heart, soul, passion, money into this thing. Hopefully it grows. And if it doesn't, then sorry buddy, you're SOL. That's the biggest, most stressful thing. Because then everything else is hinged on that, where if the company doesn't work, then there's no stress anyways, you know? So like, having employees and things like that is cool. We don't have too many right now, and most of them are people I've known. And so that's not too bad. Planning the trips isn't too bad. That's the best part actually, is planning the trips, because I mean, I've been there, I know what I want to see and what's worthwhile seeing, and I can plan the classes. I have our curriculums all set up for everything, so that's the fun part, but there's definitely stress involved.
Thank you, by the way, this is awesome. But, so what are you doing in your company that Abbey Road didn't do? Are you taking care of the creeper problem?
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, really,
They're going down low.
they had a solid trip.
No creepers, that's
Yeah, no.
your slogan.
No, exactly. I will background check. I will, they had a solid program. Like, I'm 100% trying to bash them because it was gross. But it was, I'm not saying that they, if I was a kid on that trip, I wouldn't have known any different. I would have thought it was the greatest summer I ever had in my life, and it was the best experience, and it was amazing. But the reason it was that way wasn't because of the company. The reason it was that way is because of me and the team. And that team was awesome. My staff there, they'd all been doing it for several years, and I was the new guy. And they're like, all right, boss, what do we do? I'm like, I don't even say that to me. Do not call me boss, because it's not okay. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing either. You guys are going to help me out more than I'm going to help you out, sadly, this year. So they were awesome, and every time there was some hiccup, the kids never knew. We almost got evicted from the apartments because the rent wasn't paid, and it was just such a shit show that it was not even. So what I'm going to do different, in answer to your question, is not make it a shit show. I'm going to have background check the staff. I already have staff lined up. We had to hire. I had to hire 2 teachers when I got there. We didn't have a fashion class teacher for Italian fashion, and we didn't have an Italian language teacher. And I don't speak Italian well enough to interview somebody, but I had to wing it. And like, there wasn't a teacher for that class. I taught fashion for 2 days. I taught fashion. Me. So, like, it's insanity. That's I guess what I would say is what I'm going to do different, is that there's a lack of caring. There's a lack of caring from admin, and there's a lack of caring from the people who need it to the most. And they didn't care about the kids. They cared about the fact that at the end of the day, the kids will go home and they just pocketed money. And that's not what education should be, I don't believe. And I'm going to background check. I'm going to have the apartments lined up, have the rent paid. I'll have more than enough money in the account. If somebody embezzles money from me, then they're fired, and I break up with them. Yeah. If any of the insanity, So yeah, I guess that's what I'm going to do better than them, or at least hope to. And maybe I'll come into it, and I'll be like, there's no way. And they were doing their best. I don't know, but I'm convinced that I can do better. Yeah.
Any other follow-up questions?
So is that like a big company? Like, I feel like as a parent myself, like I would research that. I wouldn't just be like, oh, I'm going to send my daughter, even though these people aren't background checked.
I mean, they have, I think there's something like 17 programs.
Okay, so they're big enough, so it, okay.
Yeah, they're big enough.
It was the same thing, where they got credit for it, the kids did.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the high schools are sanctioning it, we're giving it credit, right?
That
But
makes
see,
sense.
Yeah, and see, but the thing with them is, they don't even go to the high schools. Like, I've been to every freaking high school I can think of in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Like, I went all the way down to Owatonna, and I've been all the way to Blaine, and I've been all the way out to Chaska, and I've been all the way into Stillwater and Hastings, and the town right across the border in Wisconsin.
Bolton.
That's the one.
And I mean, I've hit every damn school, and I'm in person as the founder saying, hey, this is what we want to do. And I've had every response from, Rosemont High School literally said they find it inappropriate that I come to their school, to some schools saying, yes, this is amazing, we want to partner 100% here. So Abbey Road never went to any of the schools, they just shot out an email. Said, hey, you want to do whatever? Because and this is me being probably judgmental maybe, but I think it's because they don't actually care if they get credit. I mean, it doesn't matter, because it really doesn't matter. They paid. I'd have their money. It doesn't matter. But that's slimy. If you say, you could get credit for this, but then they go, well, how do I get credit for it? And they go, sorry. You know, that's not really, what are you doing with your life? Why are you running a business where you take money and education opportunities from kids?
Called free market capital.
Sure. So, that's ethics, by the way. You can put some ethics in that.
There's no ethics in free market capitalism, that's quite clear.
So, that's, I don't know, does that answer your question? I guess. They're a big company, and they're not like a STA, student travel, or whatever. That's like a huge one. But they're a private company.
Yeah, that can cut both ways too. The bigger you become, the more
Yeah.
disconnected from the business.
Right. So, I mean, it is a double-edged sword in that regard. So.
Do you wanna?
Yeah, you mentioned when you were doing the presentation a little bit about, I think you said that not being registered with the Italian authorities that are in, something came up. What came up? I'm just curious.
We
if you
had,
can talk about it.
no, it's fine. We had, so we had 2 kids on the trip who are never allowed in the European Union again. It's a wild ride, man, I'm telling you.
Well, we still go to work now.
So they brought pot brownies. And, obviously we told them not to. Like, it's not like, hey, dude, bring your weed. But like, there were 2 17-year-old boys, and they brought pot brownies from the States. And we knew they were, like, I don't want to be that guy, but we knew the ones that would probably be the stoners on the trip. And they were walking around, obviously stoned, they bought stuff in Italy. Like, we knew, but like, we didn't want to go ransack their room because we had no proof or whatever. Well, one night, they busted out the pot brownies, and they handed them out to people in their apartment. Because the students all room in the same apartment. Like all the boys, they had a 3-bedroom apartment, and then they'd be like 2 or 3 to a room, and there were 8 boys. So all the boys but one were high, and then they all went out to dinner in the city, because we do, like, some nights they go out in groups to have dinner on their own. And this was one of those nights, and they're like, okay, well, we're not going to be supervised for a while, so let's, And they went out and they got stopped by the Cariparma, which is the, like, government police, like military police, and they were arrested.
Well, they didn't get arrested. You don't just get stopped by military.
I don't know. They were arrested by the military police. All I know is that they
peed in the fountain or something?
I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, right? Like, military police?
Well, so in Italy, there's 3 different types of police. There's a straight military, which operates as a police force. Then there's the Cariparma, which is they're like the police here. Then there's the Policia, which are more like town security guards. They don't have guns. They're only allowed to carry tasers. But there's no guns in Italy. Also, I mean, you're not allowed to have a gun in Italy, unless you serve in the military and you do certainly. But anyways, so they were arrested by like the police, and we get a call that says we have 3 of your students here, and you got to come figure this out. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god! And I got the call. I got this call at like 11:30, and check-in was at midnight. I got this call at 11:30, and I was with the kids that night. We were out at the discotheque. It was a 16-up discotheque where there was the last weekend of the 2-week trip. I think it sounded for. So some of the kids, it was their last day, and it was like our dance. We took them out to a discotheque, and I'm out there. I'm like, what? You have our kids? What? And then so I leave, and I had to leave the discotheque, and I had to go down to the police station with our Tuscan cuisine teacher, Vieri, who can speak Italian. And basically, we had to negotiate their release, first of all. We pay their bail, which their parents paid for.
Right.
And the two kids that brought the pop-out brownies didn't say anything. The other kid who was arrested with them was bawling and said everything.
Oh, no.
Just said the whole thing, confessed to the police, said, I'm done.
You should be
And
deported, too.
he was pardoned. He was let go. He was let go because he was, I think, 15. And he was let go. Yeah. He was let go. And so he didn't have any charges. But the two that did it were charged with illegal drug trafficking because they brought the pot from the U.S. And so now they had to pay a fine. I think each kid had to pay something like 10,000 euro. Then they now have it on their record that they're international drug criminals. Yeah. And they have it on their record that they're a lifetime ban from any European Union country. So,
They're getting checked every time they go.
Yeah,
yeah.
TSA
But
check.
Every time.
I mean, really though, they got off really easy because they didn't even have to spend a night in jail. And I mean, yeah, you can't ever go to the EU, but that's because you fucked up. Like that's on you.
Right.
It's
How did they prove they brought him with them? Why wouldn't they just say,
They
we brought him
confessed.
here?
They confessed to it. They said the whole thing. Right.
Rule number
They
one,
hadn't
get a
sobered up yet.
lawyer and shut up.
They hadn't sobered up yet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, man.
Once the one
You
kid
cracked
cracked,
it.
once the one kid cracked, then it was like, yeah. And then they had us come and search our apartments and everything, and they found more pot brownies that they had. It was just not good. And
Story.
so yeah, that's what happened.
That's a How do you leave that out of the presentation?
I don't want to just like, I want to be a bit more formal if it came up in conversation, I guess. But,
I mean, that's a great, like.
That's why you stick around for the questions afterwards.
Right.
yeah, everybody else.
Yeah, everyone missed out on
Yeah,
that.
right. This is the real time. If you got real questions for me, start going now.
It's a
But.
good thing to tell the kids now that you're in your own company, you can say, you know,
Don't
this is
bring-
very easy to cross this line.
Right. And
Don't
like,
bring drugs to Amsterdam, that's number two.
Right.
Probably don't need
yeah, like, and I guess I'd never tell the kids this, but like, I kind of get it. Like, if you're you can't drink either, but the legal drinking age is, to buy it is 12. To drink it is, in Italy, yeah, the legal age to buy alcohol is 12. To
They
drink
send
it
the kids down to the store to
yeah,
get wine.
to drink it is anything. So, but the Abbey Road policy, and still our policy, is that you follow the U.S. drinking laws. So, but I mean, I'm not stupid. I know if I was 17 and in Italy, and I met some girl on the trip, and we're gonna go out to dinner with our friends or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, let's all drink. We're gonna drink because we can. I'm gonna try whatever a mojito is. That sounds
Right.
neat.
But parents are
I get it.
thousands of miles away.
Right. I know it's gonna happen, but like, if you smuggle drugs, if you drink pot, and then I have to go down to the goddamn police station and ruin my night to drag your ass
In the middle of a discotheque.
I'm sitting there like dancing or whatever. I'm having a good time. No, but like, if I have to drag your ass out of an Italian jail because you brought pot over.
This also means that you can smuggle pot through customs if you make it brownies. Works perfectly.
I mean, I didn't say that, but.
Edibles are changing the world. Any last questions? If not, thank you very much. Hey!
Listening to you.
Yeah.